Ladies and gentlemen, big hairy news.
Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to Big Hairy News, or Bright Hairy News. Hi, Magenta, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Looking forward to the weekend, though.
Yeah, busy week?
Yeah, it has been a little bit busy. Not too bad, though, thankfully. But, did my weekly drag bingo, which was lovely.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, it's a good way to spend a Wednesday.
I feel that. Well, we've got a very exciting show. A little bit of a different one for a Friday night. Obviously, we've had a lot of news to talk about this week. It's been a week, hasn't it? It's just been a lot of stuff. But we've got Duncan Webb joining us to talk about the Treaty Principles Bill. The report finally out. So we'll bring him on in a few minutes. But kia ora everyone. Welcome. Here are everyone in the chat. I see there's lots of people. We've already got a super chat from Kiwi Bird. Ah, there we go. We've got a question for you already. So
Yeah.
we will we might as well jump into that now.
Yeah.
No point. It's kind of the big news of the day. There's no point holding back, right? So welcome to the show, the Right Honourable Duncan Webb. Hello, how are you?
Hello. I'm not dressed to be a Right Honourable tonight.
I was going to say that.
I've had a hard day at the office and I got home and it's 9 o'clock at night, so I'm just here in my comfies.
Nice.
I mean, so am I. I got my pajama pants on, man. We good.
Oh, good on you.
No, it's a good Friday for it. Are you back in? Did you spend most of the day in Christchurch, or are you up in Wellington?
Yeah, no, all day here in Christchurch. Got back on Thursday night after a pretty, as you say, pretty busy week.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the nice 24 degrees I think we had here today?
Oh, it felt warm, eh? I went for a bit of a walk over lunchtime, and it was really nice, blue skies, and I understand Wellington, it was raining. So
Yeah, nah, it was a miserable day here. I'm very jealous.
Oh, you got the best of it then, obviously. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, Treaty Principles Bill. The Select Committee has handed in their report. Before we get into that, I just need to clarify. What was your technical position? Because I'm trying to say you were the subcommittee chair, or chair of the subcommittee, and I was trying to figure it out.
Well, there's actually quite a funny story there. So we split into two committees, right? Because there's so many submissions, we wanted to kind of maximise the amount of submissions that got an oral hearing. And so as we were doing that, James Meagher, who's the chair of the committee, said, well, I'll chair one, which you kind of expect. And then he pointed to Jamie Arbuckle and said, why don't, Jamie Arbuckle, who's the deputy chair, can chair the other one. And I piped up and said, well, hang on, why don't we have an opposition member chair it? And Jamie Arbuckle, bless his heart, sort of looked and said, well, I don't really care. And so I kind of accidentally got voted to be the chair of one of the subcommittees hearing those submissions, which of course meant 30 odd hours of listening to those submissions. But there were some crackers in there, I must say. Really good, amazing. And can I just say one other thing? Because there's been all this glory around the submissions that kind of didn't get onto the record. And one of the things I went and did, because there was all these hard copy submissions that we hadn't seen, I went into the room where they were stored. Now, I wasn't going to read them all because there was thousands and thousands of them, but I went through and opened up the boxes and kind of put through and flicked through them. And it was just phenomenal, the amount of work that there was all these there's a whole lot in this kind of shaky handwriting from old people who were like, I'm 84 and I just want to say this bill is a terrible thing. And then there was some done with bloody coloured pencils from intermediate kids and just the whole raft. And it was actually quite an amazing experience because, well, you probably don't, but a handwritten letter it's something special. It carries a special weight. And so these documents, which were particularly the ones that had been handwritten, were actually quite moving, and it made me take the job much more seriously in a sense. And that's why I kind of went hard on we need everything on the record, because it would be such a travesty, whoever they are, whatever they say, for them just to be like, oh yeah, thanks very much, we haven't got time for those, we might tack them onto some corner of the website later on,
Absolutely.
So was it did you find those early, or did you sort of find them
No,
a bit later and be like, oh crap, we lost them? Or was it just they were sitting there in a back room?
They were never lost, but I mean, I feel for the clerks, right? So you got these people who are not political, and a bit of a shout out to them actually. They're public servants. They're serving Parliament, and they kind of really value the concept of Parliament as the centre of our democracy, and they have to kind of deal with all of us, kids fighting in the playground, so to speak, and be really measured and careful about it and not take sides. But they have been breaking their backs trying to get through as many submissions as they can, organising hundreds of people at short notice to come on and do these submissions. So, just a shout out to those clerks. They don't get a lot of glory, nor do they want it. But they are the oil that makes the machine, work.
Yeah. No. So they were so who was actually reading? Were you personally reading the submissions, or were you just listening to the oral ones?
Well, this is the whole big point, right? That yes, I could read a lot of the submissions. So just to kind of wind the whole thing back a bit, we get over 300,000 submissions. No single human can read all those. So they were essentially sent off to the Ministry of Justice, who also didn't have the resources. So they actually subcontracted a policy firm, to go through and read. And I asked the question, is an actual human going to read all of these submissions, or is there some computer doing it? And the answer I got was no, every submission will be read by a human. So that's a pretty enormous task. That went away, and that's how we get the departmental report, which you can get on the Parliament website. That's the one that kind of says, here's what the submissions are, here's what they said, and that was fed into us. In terms of members, we can see submissions once the clerk says that they're properly made. And so there's only about 100 and something thousand of them that have so far been tabled by the clerk saying, yeah, they're in order. They haven't got swear words. They're not calling anyone racist. They're not defaming anyone. You can go on and read those. So we reported back after being able to see only a fraction of the submissions. I forget the exact number, but I think it's something like 20,000 hard copy submissions, and hundreds of thousands of online submissions. The other thing is there's boxes, like there's 12 boxes. I don't like to say it, especially not on this platform, but there's 12 boxes of Hobson pledge submissions, right? Now, they're all pretty similar. They're not identical, but they're all pretty similar. So, you kind of read one or two or five and you got the gist. And there's also a box of several hundred Green Party submissions and Te Tiriti submissions. And they're all kind of sort of postcards or whatever. But the ones that really got me were the genuine, unique submissions that someone had sat down either with a pen and paper or in front of their laptop and actually just typed out and posted put in an envelope, or in many cases, because of the debacle around the submission process, if you remember it, turned up to Parliament and handed it across the desk.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool. I know I spent way too long on mine when I probably could have cut half of it, but I was like, no, if I'm going to do a submission about something that's this important, I'm going to write it. And I wrote like a family history essay, but it was all relevant and important stuff to put in there.
Yeah, but I mean, in some ways I didn't, because I had a bit to do with the Labour view that's in the Select Committee report. And a lot of the submissions, I'm a former law professor, so I appreciated the kind of constitutional law ones. But a lot of people came along and told their family history. And I'm not sure that really gets captured in the Select Committee report itself, that there's all these kind of academic and scholarly reasons why this is a piece of shit. But there's also these quite different reasons, which are, well, this is who I am, and this is where I come from, and this is my relationship with the treaty. And this is so disrespectful to all of what I am and this stands for. You know, it's a quite different argument, and I think it's one that it's really hard to capture. Easier to
Absolutely.
say
Yeah.
than write, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt kind of silly because I was like, oh, I'm not an academic and I don't really know this, but this is about the only point of view I can come from. So that's pretty much summed up what my submission was. But I was like, no, I'm proud of that.
Well, there's some that stand out, right? Marilyn Waring, who you might know, you know, former National Party MP, who, you know, went head to head with Robert Muldoon back in the day, and then has done some amazing work around women's work and the value of women's work and things like that. A real trailblazer. She came in and sat down and said, well, here, look, I just want to tell you my story. I grew up in, you know, the Waikato, and in a very wealthy family from farming stock. And then she kind of talks about the moment she realized that her farm was the ancestral lands of the Māori who were living in poverty just down the road. And her kind of, you know, road to Damascus moment where she realized that there was a relationship of injustice there that needed redressing somehow, and that the treaty had a part to play. And, you know, so that was her personal story. And then for her to say, and now you're telling me that this is about, you know, nothing more than them not having any extra rights, which is kind of the ACT Party mantra, right? It's like, well, hang on, given that history, that narrative, that whakapapa, how could you possibly say that? It's just amazing. And look,
yeah.
what a great job I've got. What fantastic. What a moment to be there listening and, you know, being able to contribute.
I have a question on the oral submissions. So one of the things that came out was that in the report that you attempted to move the committee to not hear any oral submissions. I'm sure you have good reasons for it, but why was it?
No, look, we hate the bill, right? We really don't like the bill, and we didn't want my first motion, which are all recorded in the select committee report. My first motion was, let's just turn this around immediately. All of us around the table, except for one ACT member, know what's going to happen to this bill. Why would we put New Zealand to the expense and the distress of this process, right? So let's just turn it around, send it straight back to Parliament in 3 days, and say we don't like it. So that was my first my first motion. And the second one was, is again, right, let's kind of lance the boil, get it out of the way as quickly as possible, and send it straight back without any oral submissions, because we've got 300,000 written ones. We know what we've got, Now, to be fair, that was unlikely to get acceptance around the table, and it panned out as was expected. It was rejected. But what really frustrated me, and I really want to stress this, was that once we agreed to enter into a fully fledged submissions process, the bill was reported back today, and that's about 40 days before it was due. Now, and there are hundreds of thousands of submissions which are not yet on the record. So they didn't. It's like, it's like a judge making a decision without hearing all the evidence. Not all the evidence was before us. Now, we know the way the wind was blowing, right? But the fact of the matter is, it was an incredibly poor process. It was rushed, and it's pretty. I was actually really upset. People were like patting me on the back and saying, "Good work you're doing on the Treaty Principles Bill." But on Thursday, when these decisions were made, I was actually quite sad, because I just looked at the way it was the National Party were treating the process, and it was just mercenary. They just wanted to kind of slide it under the carpet, get it passed. They want it out of the way and not to kind of intersect with the budget week. They don't want to confuse that, and it's it's just a bad process. But look, we've got to where we are. We know what's going to happen next. The National Party will vote. Well, Jesus, just imagine. But we're pretty confident it's going to get voted down, and that'll be the end of it. So and I kind of look forward to that. Put it to rest.
Yeah, it's just a shame that we're going to have to waste so much money before that happens.
Yes, unfortunately.
This is so expensive. both within Parliament, where it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, but the process as a whole, all the policy development, the Ministry of Justice, that's millions of dollars.
Mm.
And look, I'm not sure you can value it, but there's over 300,000 people who turned their minds to this. So there's, there is hundreds of thousands of hours of people's time consumed in an evil and divisive piece of legislation.
Yeah. Well, the results are not evil or divisive, I would say. So the people that haven't seen it, 5 weeks, which is good work for 5 weeks. 300,000 or over 300,000 submissions, 80 hours of oral submissions from 529 people, which I'm assuming some of those were representing groups, which ended in a 45-page report with 12 themes raised by opponents and 4 themes by supporters, which kind of speaks to that narrative of, I think Chewie was saying it last night, of the opponent side had a lot to say, and it was almost based around facts and a lot of evidence. It was very academic, and then the supporter side was very vibes, I think is what he said.
Yeah,
So I think
And you
that's
can
the
see that here with the difference between those two, I guess, two lists.
Yeah,
really.
is that the Radio New Zealand article there?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's a good one actually. So if people want a kind of quick skim of what the report says, it's actually not a bad place to start.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's great. Do you have anything to say on the themes? Because they're sort of what most of us would expect. But is there anything that was quite surprising for you to come out of this?
Well, not after all those submissions, right? Nothing surprises me anymore. There was some differing. I think what was interesting, the National Party didn't have much to say. They just want this to go away, and so it's not surprising they didn't have a real view. The Māori Party view is what you'd expect. They take the view that Māori are sovereign and that they're not. The treaty essentially is retained their own sovereignty, and that this is therefore an attack on sovereign rights. It's a view which is at odds with kind of real world New Zealand, if you know what I mean, because anyone who's living in New Zealand is subject to the New Zealand government. So whilst I think the argument that goes backwards and forwards about whether any particular iwi ceded sovereignty in the treaty is a real argument, that's not the only way governments get sovereignty, right? Over the course of years in government, and it kind of can accumulate. So that's interesting that they're actually putting on paper their view, which is that Māori have some sort of sovereignty which is quite separate from kind of the New Zealand government. And so there you go. That's what you get with the Māori Party. The Greens and the Labour Party views were relatively similar in many ways. I really wanted to make sure that the Labour Party put down a really thoughtful view which captured some of the fantastic submissions that were made. And one of the things I really wanted to do was not to kind of duck and weave, but to confront head on the kind of equality argument, the argument that Māori get special privileges because they make these claims under the treaty, and they're more privileged than Pākehā or non-Māori New Zealanders. And I think it was really important to do that. And I guess there's a few ways there's a whole lot of reasons that you can kind of pan out, and it might be worth just touching on some of them. And probably the first one is there's actually no real evidence. Just one. I think it was a farmer came along and said, under the Resource Management Act, Māori can stop everything. And then we had local bodies, and so we'd ask them, okay, what is the rights that Māori have under the Resource Management Act that no one else has? And they were pretty upfront and said, well, nothing. They get to be consulted just like everyone else does, but they've got no special veto right or anything. But sure, they're taking into consideration, and their cultural rights, in the local environment are taken into account. But they get some special rights. So the first thing is, well, it doesn't actually work that way. And I guess the second point was this, that because a lot of people are like, well, what about Kāinga Ora or the Māori Health Authority, things like that. And it's true that they deliver services in a particular way. But one of the really interesting things about those kinds of services is that it's about the way the services are delivered, not actually who they're delivered to. So, I went and got, I was at a Pride event the other day, and I got a Hep C test, right? Now that was delivered in a very rainbow friendly environment. It was as gay as you can get, right? But I was a straight white guy, and I was more than welcome to use that rainbow friendly service. Now, if we think about Māori services in that way as well, they're Māori friendly so that they deliver services more effectively to Māori. They're not exclusively for Māori. And I guess that brings me to the third point about kind of the equal rights thing. If you say that services should be provided in, only in English or only in a model which is familiar to kind of our Western heritage, then all you're doing is you're saying we're a monocultural society. It's not preferring someone else to recognize that they have a different cultural tradition which can be respected with tikanga, te ao Māori, and so on. So difference is not inequality, and that's fundamentally the flaw of the ACT Party's argument, that they say they're treated differently or they can be treated differently, therefore that is inequality. That's actually just a flawed argument, because difference and inequality are two quite different things. Anyway, there you go. Slight rant, but I'm doing a bit of a sales job, but I really think it's worth a read if you're really interested in this stuff. If you've got a passion for Te Tiriti, that document, the Select Committee report, is actually of significance in terms of recording not only what happened but where we are right now in terms of the treaty. And so, I'd encourage people to go and have a look.
I'm just going to put the link into the chat there. I think that's, before Magenta, you jump in, I think that's what I got out of the oral submissions, and I'm kind of glad that it got vetoed that the oral submissions did go through, because I think there's a lot that came out of that because it's audio video, right? It's much easier for people to consume, and I think there was so much that came out of that was good to consume for a lot of us. It was easy access, and I think I actually learned a lot from those submissions. So part of me is like, I know it would have killed the bill sooner if we didn't do it, but I also recognize it actually was a great thing to do.
Oh, no, I kind of agree with you as well, right? The way it turned out, the world we ended up with was one where there were a whole lot of fantastic submissions, and that's certainly a good thing.
Yeah. Magenta, have you got anything to ask?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I agree with most of what you said in the second and the third point, but that first point about Te Pāti Māori, to be honest, I'm going to push back a bit on this, and you kind of framed it as if they want that tinoranga tiratanga is the equivalent of having separated, governing things, but it's more to do with the fact that constitutionally we have never been set up in a way that has actually been how it was supposed to be from the beginning. So that's what they tend to kind of push. So I feel like it's a little unfair to frame it in the way that you've done.
No, look, I wasn't trying to frame, so really good conversation to have, right? I wasn't trying to frame what we understand by tinoranga tiratanga, because I certainly have an understanding of how that has developed through the principles of the treaty, right? As giving as much autonomy and self-governance as is appropriate and possible to Māori, particularly in respect of things that are Māori, right? So I think we can agree on that. But my point, I guess, was the approach, and I'm trying to find it in the document itself, because as I read the Te Pāti Māori submission or the report, they actually essentially assert that they have more than simply that kind of tinoranga tiratanga. And I mean, if you look at the way they, and there's other things going on as well. If you look at the way they approach Parliament, they sort of sit both within it and outside of it. So if you look, if I can divert for a moment, if you look to the way that they are managing this privileges issue that's going on at the moment, they're saying, well, we don't really even recognise the authority of this Parliament to constrain our behaviour. We're not going to turn up to the committee. Now, I'm on that committee, so I can't talk too much about it. We're not going to turn up to the committee. We're going to have our own separate committee. So that kind of approach, saying we don't sit within it, we sit outside of it.
Yeah, but there could be an argument to be made that they're kind of forced to do these things because in terms of our political framework, we're entirely a Westminster system that pretends to honor the treaty. So I think what a lot of that really speaks to is more the fact that from the beginning, we have never been set up in a political system that is co-governed, because had we had that, like you said, those submissions that had a lot of talking about whakapapa and how like people's mana is enhanced by the treaty, those type of things would be captured if we had a political system that had included Māori tikanga from the start. And so I guess it just feels like a lot of times, while I don't actually even agree with everything Te Pāti Māori says or how they do it, I think that they are often pushed to it because we're getting close to 200 years on and we're still having the same conversations, but I don't think they're the conversations we should be having.
Yeah, I mean, I really was just trying to capture, because you asked me what the report was, and I just want to try and capture the flavour of Te Pāti Māori's view. And I think we've actually done that. I think this discussion we're having is actually...
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't reduced or diminished in the kind of... I think the words that you used initially were a bit too reductive.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, it's always hard, isn't it, when you're kind of trying to capture it in a short frame.
No, I understand.
The other thing to know, I think you make a really good point about Parliament being a Westminster Parliament, right? And whilst, it's changed slightly, fundamentally, it is very much based on the Westminster system. So it doesn't, and even things like, really strict rules about speaking and what you can say and how long you can speak for and things like that. It's quite different from what might go on a marae or elsewhere. There's actually some work being done, and Adrian Rurafi, who used to be Speaker, he's actually leading it to say, well, what do we need to do to recognise the place of tikanga in Parliament? I think it's a really hard job that he's got ahead of him, but it's good to see that some progress, is being made in that place in particular, because you do know it's kind of a foreign place. I'm a lawyer. I turned up and I thought it was weird. For someone like Hana, who's young and very Māori, it's truly weird. So I get it. Yeah, we do need to do better.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the thing is that I feel like the question shouldn't even be about these principles. It's maybe more the way that we're set up, because I mean, there's Hana and them shouldn't even have to really go before this committee. If we had set our system up to accommodate for the actual cultures that we were blending together, we could have, and I know there's been Mātiki Mai and He Puapua, which have done a lot of great work, like iwi have been doing work on this. It's just frustrating to see that those aren't the conversations that are elevated. It's bloody DS's stuff that just gets the conversation all the year.
In this government, when we're in government, both as Labour and with Greens as well, in New Zealand First, we were making progress, and I know that many people thought it wasn't fast enough, and a whole lot of other people thought it was kind of radical, right? But this government, we just saw yesterday, I think it was, yesterday, the repeal of 7AA of the Oranga Tamariki Act, right? So that placing whakapapa at the centre of questions and tikanga, in terms of the welfare of Māori kids. Now, I mean, where does that even come from? I mean, it's just beggars belief, right? And now they're going through and kind of identifying treaty clauses and eliminating them. It's a real backward step, more than a step. It's a real lurch.
It's funny that you bring that up, because that was kind of the second thing, seeing as you're here to talk about, was the fact that the treaty is still under attack, and a lot of these things are being repealed, like you say, the RMA, 7AA from Oranga Tamariki, and even teachers. There's a headline here: teachers are worried about draft curriculum pushing Treaty of Waitangi out. So I know that this was kind of the big bad guy, was the Treaty Principles Bill, but at the same time, people were saying, hey, this isn't the only one. There are also things happening with all of these other bills that they're trying to strip Te Tiriti from. So even if this gets voted down or doesn't make it any further, we've still got other things that might do it. And we are seeing that RMA, that Kāinga Ora, those things. So what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, the RMA, the new bill that's going to come through, and I think you're right. It's, we had a massive hikoi, right, on the Treaty Principles Bill, but there is a danger that this is something of a distraction, because the outcome of this was always kind of certain, and we've got to be really careful that we don't think, oh, well, once we kick this for touch, we've kind of won, because we haven't at all. This government, the fact of the matter is that this government, particularly whilst it's got the ACT Party in it, but I absolutely want to hold the National Party to account, because they cannot say it's the ACT Party's fault. It's just the coalition agreement. They absolutely are doing this. And if the treaty was at all valued by them, they would never have made this deal with the devil. So we need to point the finger at them, and people who vote National need to accept that their party is complicit in undermining the treaty. So, and we absolutely need to make sure that just, the little single section of the Oranga Tamariki Act and the Resource Management Act and then the Conservation Act and all of those other acts, which actually are really important, that we don't sort of let it be eroded an inch at a time.
Yeah, I feel like it's some scary stuff happening out there. Should we? There was a few questions in the chat. Do you mind answering a few of those?
Yeah, let's see how we go, eh?
We have friend of the show, Paul, the other one. Interesting to know what the process was for selecting. Oh, who did the oral submissions? Yeah, because it was 1,600 people opted to put their hands up, basically to oral.
Was it 1,600 or 16,000? It was lots. I think it was more.
Oh, it was 16,000, was it? Oh, geez, that's even.
Yeah, well, I couldn't.
That probably makes more sense.
Yeah, it was in the thousands, definitely.
Sorry, 16,000 is probably the number I was thinking of.
Really good question, Paul. And one of the things that if you go to the departmental report, you'll see that a good chunk, like there's 10% of the people actually supported the bill. And the reason for that is that we had a strange kind of process that we just, because there's no real way to do it, we just said, okay, each party, of which there are 6, can choose equal numbers of submitters. So ACT Party chose a 6th of the submitters, National chose a 6th, New Zealand First chose a 6th, Labour, Greens, Te Pāti Māori a 6th each as well. So it got a broad spread of views, and it did mean that, for example, we really wanted to make sure workers' voices were heard, and so we made sure that the unions were heard. And you can imagine, I had the Youth Council from Christchurch City, because I was like, well, I know the Youth Council, they're going to have something to say. I want to make sure they get heard. So you could go through and make sure, and of course, bounce off my own colleagues in the Labour Party and say, have you got someone who's made a submission who you really think deserves a slot? Because they're precious things. So essentially that's how we did it. We kind of recognised that there was no perfect way to do it. So it was kind of just a pragmatic way so that it was relatively fair. One of the other ways to do it would be lot, and that's been done before. I think it was done on an abortion bill, but it ended up with people were not necessarily high quality submitters. We also wanted to make sure that some of the really thoughtful people in New Zealand, whether they're former politicians like Jenny Shipley even came along and gave a submission, or academics, or iwi leaders, the iwi chairs forum, those people. We want to make sure we got all of those really, important voices to make sure. So I think at the end of the day, it was pretty representative.
Yeah. No, I
But
think
good
you did get a good range of people. I really appreciated. It was very obvious it was handpicked, but at the same time, I appreciated that in a way
Yeah,
because you did
I mean,
get a range of voices that were important, right?
it was funny because I certainly named everyone of mine, but some of the other parties we sort of named some and then said, and we just picked some random ones for the rest of them. So there were some in there, which and there was, I don't know if you saw the guy who zoomed in from Mitre 10, the hardware section, which was quite funny. I suspect he was one of the randoms, but it was quite funny.
That is funny. That is
Okay.
funny.
Yeah.
There's another question from Cuba, but it's a little bit off topic. So before we get to that, Magenta, did you have anything else that you wanted to chat about
I guess
related to
there's
the treaty
only
principles?
yeah, I guess like from here on in, like as opposition party like members, what can you guys actually like do to keep, I guess, making sure that this doesn't go through?
Yeah, well, obviously, this will probably be voted on next week. The Treaty Principles Bill will probably be voted on next week. So we've got to make sure that, I mean, we are in opposition. By definition, we don't get to call the shots, right? So I guess what we need to do is, with our progressive friends, we need to win the next election. Honestly, that is the answer. And to do that, we as the Labor Party have to present to, and we are a party that's nearer the centre than our progressive colleagues. So we have to present as a responsible party with a real plan to govern New Zealand that addresses the things that matter just to really ordinary New Zealanders, right? Those people who get up and go to work and worry about the cost of the diesel in their ute and all of that sort of stuff. And so we've got policy processes going on, and we've kind of we've already pitched what we think is going to be the key issues. It's going to be jobs, because unemployment is shit. It's going to be the health, because our health system is just really creaking under the strain, and there isn't enough money for it. And it's going to be houses and homes, right? And not just everyone, not just first home buyers, right? It's homes for everyone. The homelessness, the rise in homelessness. New Zealanders are actually quite compassionate. They don't sit at home and think, well, I've got a house, I don't care if someone's on the street. They actually do.
Yeah.
But also just, good homes for everyone, whether it's rental or whether it's purchasing or whether it's, in a retirement village, whatever it is. We've got to make sure everyone's got a good, safe, secure, warm house.
I did note, and Magenta has put it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on tax then, as that wasn't mentioned?
Less tax, wealth, more. Yeah, look, I'm not going to announce the Labor Party's tax policy.
No, I didn't ask you to. I was just asking your personal opinions on tax.
If you like it.
Yeah,
like
no,
it
look, I agree. I agree, and I agree with all of my colleagues. But David Parker, when he was Minister for Revenue, did the work on it, did the actual study that looked at where the tax burden falls. And he identified that we don't tax assets enough. That there's a group of people out there who make money, increase their wealth on the basis of assets they own, and they get the thousands or millions of dollars a year, and because it's a capital increase, it goes untaxed, and that makes no sense. And of course, if you don't tax it, it grows more, and that makes the inequality issue greater. Now, I think if we're going to go to the next election with a tax on capital of some sort, whether it's, and I think, the debate has always been wealth tax, capital gains tax, and we have to do that in a way which is really understandable and acceptable to New Zealanders, that they get it, and they understand why. Because people, people maybe don't love paying tax, but they get it. They get that our police are paid by our taxes, our teachers, our nurses, our doctors, our roads, all of those things which we kind of jump up and down when it doesn't work and complain about potholes, or whatever it is. We need a tax base to do it. And I think they also, we do have a real sense of fairness. And the idea that there's some people, certainly the super wealthy, which was David Parker's study, who pay about 9% of the increase in their wealth every year in tax, whereas someone on $70,000 or the average wage pays about 25 or 27% of their income in tax. It's like, how is that fair? So that is something we need to address. And there's wider arguments about, tax on capital and where we put our money, and the fact that we put too much money into houses and all sorts of other stuff. But yeah, so big tax changes are hard to do, right? I mean, when this government got in, we had a kind of we had a tax on second homes called the Bright Line test, right? So that was if you bought a house, and when we finished it was if you sold it within 10 years and it was not your family home, then you paid tax on the increase in value of the home. So, that was specifically aimed at cooling down the house market and stopping people making money flipping, just trading in houses. The National Party got in, did away with it immediately. And of course, the other thing that they did away with immediately was the tax break for landlords on interest payments. So they borrow a whole lot of money. They borrow, $1 million. They pay $70,000 in interest on it a year. They get a tax write-off for that $70,000. It makes the money cheaper. It makes it cheaper to be a landlord than a first-home buyer, and that can't be right. So, and that was like Nicola Willis talks about deficits and so on, and how tough. So apparently we made it for her. She made it tough for herself with a $3 billion tax break by giving landlords interest, tax deductions for interest. So, there you go. So,
the tax debate is one that we like to have quite often. I mean, you saw that we have a T-shirt about it.
Yeah.
I suppose the thing that a lot of people, and I don't know if you've sort of seen this around, but a lot of people worry that because you're right, the tax conversation it gets everyone's heckles up. They get really scared about it because it's the mum and pops who have perhaps got a batch or something they can afford, and generational wealth, that sort of thing, and they think, oh, they're coming from my money. I've got $1 million. They're coming for me. How in these, you're not saying what the tax policy is, but how will you communicate that it's not them that the tax is going to go after? It's the tens of millionaires, it's the hundreds of millionaires who do exist, but that's the people we want to try and get. It's the property flippers, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, look, and one of the challenges with tax policy is that people don't only object to taxing them in their current situation, they object to a proposal which taxes them in their hoped future situation, right? Now, if everyone wants to be a millionaire, multi-millionaire, then a tax that says, well, if you make it there, we're going to tax you, people find that hard, so it is a real challenge to persuade people. And I think that, when we come to implement our tax policy, you're right, we've got to communicate it really clearly. I think it's a wee bit early to say how you're going to do that, because I can't explain how to sell something that hasn't been decided on yet. And it hasn't been decided. I just want to be clear about that. It's not like it's a secret. It just hasn't been decided yet.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I think that's just the question that all of us are scared about, because I think that's the thing that's going to decide the tax. It's going to be the election of tax, as people say, but it's really how do you communicate that? And we're all a bit like, is Labour going to do it correctly? Are we going to get there? Are we going to get people on board with this idea of new tax policy, or is it going to freak everyone out?
You guys are important, right? Because one of the things, we can't persuade the nation by ourselves. And one of the challenges for the left is that our voices are not amplified in quite the same way sometimes as the voices of the right, because they have money and networks. And so we've really got to work on making sure that our allies who have voices, understand what we're trying to say, understand kind of how we're trying to frame it, and are equipped to also, amplify that story, tell it as well, and tell it in your own way, but one which, kind of is really well informed. So we've got a job ahead of us, sure.
Yeah, no, it's tough. I don't envy you guys. It's going to be an interesting 2 years leading up to year and a half almost really now at this point. Magenta, did you have anything before we let Duncan go and enjoy his Friday night?
I think we had one last question that you're saving for the end
Oh,
from the
yes.
super chats. So
I can throw that one up. It was Kiwi Burb. So we'll throw this very, very another hard question for you. What are your thoughts around what Tamitha said about police speed patrols and some people, homeless folk and Māori, feeling unsafe? This was a big topic this week amongst
sure.
some other
And look,
things.
first of all, I think
Last
if what Tamitha was seeking to communicate was that there are some people out there who are marginalised and who don't feel the police are on their side all the time, then she's right. But I do think, Tamitha has sat next to me at the select committee. I've got a lot of time for her, but I don't think she was accurate when she said most people, feel less safe around the police. This government, might be telling the police how to do their job and, putting foot patrols and so on and so forth. But I do think most people, particularly when you've got a national government who's stirring the pot on law and order and crime and justice, I think most people do feel safer when they know that the police are available or nearby or visible or whatever. And I mean, So look, I get the sentiment, and I do think there's a conversation to be had around, and the police themselves. Can I also say this? The police themselves know that this is the case because they have addressed the problem of systemic racism. They've identified it. They've put their finger on it and said, yes, we do have a problem, and they're seeking to improve the way they operate. So I think we just need to recognise that this is not the police force that I grew up with in this kind of 80s and 90s. This is a different kind of police force. It's much more diverse. It is much more representative of who New Zealand really is, but there is work to be done. And Tamitha has identified that, but I think she probably kind of didn't quite express it in a way that most New Zealanders connected with.
That's a fair point. I think we also had a discussion last week when it came out that we're like, actually, Tamitha's right. There is evidence here. The police know that there's evidence here that minorities do feel unsafe around police. But you're right. It's that communication of having it be heard that there are some people that feel unsafe and that we need to address it, as opposed to, I guess, everyone feels unsafe. I don't think that's what she said, though. She didn't say everyone feels unsafe. She definitely said there's a minority of people.
Did you guys see the news today? They did actually do this, and they've got respondents at 31.5% no, which isn't a majority. But that's because there is also a neutral line. Just wanted to say that did come out today.
No, that's good.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, can I just, because as justice spokesperson, that whole crime and justice is part of my gig as well, and I do find it really frustrating that the National Party is kind of beating up on crime, and it actually creates fear where it might not have existed before. And if they create the narrative, then the news kind of follows. And whilst COVID totally skews all the figures, but if you look over the long term, violent crime has been trending down for years, which is great. In the work that's being done in family and domestic violence, it's good work. It's actually having some effect. There's still work to be done, but there isn't. It just simply was not true to say there was a crime wave. My real concern is that the response to that narrative has been increase sentences. So the Sentencing Act reform has just gone through, which basically tells judges what to do. So you can't look at a person and their personal circumstances and look at the circumstances of the victim and kind of do a really nuanced view. You just got to say, well, okay, here's the kind of tick box list of how much I can discount, and there's much less discretion. And then you've got 3 strikes, which is just a horrific piece of legislation, which will see people in jail. Now, I'm not saying they haven't committed offences. If they're a 3-striker, they're clearly, we've got some issues there. But again, it's not saying what is the best justice response to keep the community safe and to address the cause of offending. It's saying it's a 3rd strike, send them away for the maximum term of imprisonment, right? So, and the list goes on. So I'm just concerned about that there's this narrative here. And I guess in the face of a national party that's leading the charge on that, I can see why, someone might rail against it in kind of swing entirely in the opposite direction. So important to take a really balanced approach. And the one thing, victims are really important. We do need to put them at the centre of any decision making around crime and justice. But at the same time, you don't actually keep victims safer in the long term simply by putting people in prison. You've got to address the causes of offending. And when you do that, it's both address the causes of offending before the offending, mental health, addiction, poverty, family dislocation. They're all kind of things that feed into offending. But also, if people do cross the line, at the moment we tend to just put them in prison and kind of pay lip service to the idea of rehabilitation. If people are going to be put in prison or home detention or whatever other punishment they must serve, there should be in parallel addressing the causes of offending. I forget the exact number, but I'm sure it was well over 50% of people in prison have serious mental health issues. Prison does not address mental health issues, So,
if anything, it makes it worse, right?
Yeah, sure. Anyway,
it's we can do a full circle back to, so what you're saying is we need to tax wealth so that we can fund rehabilitation services and prevent crime, right?
we absolutely need a better tax system which is fairer and more equal and gives us the money we need to build the society we want. How about that?
Well, we can't wait to see what your tax plan is, Labour.
Very diplomatic. I love it.
No, it's been awesome to have you on. Thank you so much for spending your Friday night with us, and good work on the Treaty Principles Bill work in the Select Committee. And we'll hopefully hear from you soon.
Yeah, have a good weekend. Have a good
Yes, enjoy.
Yeah, thanks.
Catch you.
Bye.
Ah, so awesome. That was I'm going to do the Pat thing. That was that was Duncan Webb from the Justice spokesperson from the Labour Party, and I don't think did I get an answer. It was chair of the
one of the subcommittees
of the Select Committee for the Treaty Principles Bill, because there was 300,000 submissions, something like that, right?
Wow, it was record-breaking numbers. Yes.
Yes, no, some cool stuff. Very interesting conversation. I really appreciate Duncan taking on some of those slightly more, slightly to the other.
He handled it like a champ.
Tangent questions, but also I think he had some good challenges in there. I appreciate Magenta and your knowledge in this space, because I think you're asking the right questions. And I did wonder about that. I was thinking, Te Māori sovereignty.
Yeah.
I get what he was trying to say.
Yeah,
but yes, I understand what you're also. Yeah, no, I think you're
not
right
a fan
in
of
your response there.
And I mean, the chat was also not happy with it either. So
no,
I saw you guys.
Yeah, I saw it too. But that's the role of politician, right? It's it's sometimes you got your views and you might say the wrong thing and you get criticized for it, and all you can do is learn and do better, right? And us too.
And we're not mainstream media, so we can ask the hard questions and not be scared.
And ask for a good tax policy.
Right?
Fingers
How do you
crossed.
like my teacher? That was good though.
Thanks for bringing that up. Appreciate it. Let's get to some of these super chats that I hopefully I didn't see any other questions in there. It was just some comments, so that's good.
Yeah.
It might have been one that I might have missed. But anyways, Citizen Cole for $2 says, I'm not paying a late fee. You're early. When was that? 9:10 p.m. Okay.
I see.
Daniel McGuire for $2 says late fee. Be straight. Follow laws. Oh, see,
I love that. That's great.
there's too many of these. I understand the reference now. Kaimatata for $5 says Helen Clark opened the door for Seymour's Treaty Principles Bill because it set the precedent that Māori rights could be undermined. Labour are not innocent in colonisation. I agree. There's definitely some things that have happened in the past, but I think what we just need to remember is that people can do better. The Labour Party is hopefully not the same Labour Party it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But
I don't know.
Time will tell, right?
With the way Chippy was with the Tamil
I
thing,
know.
you can't blame people for being like a little sus.
No, I agree. I think there's some
Question
genuine
everything.
criticism there. Yeah. Tiffany Paki for $10. Thank you. We repeated the same cycle for decades. It's time for radical reform. You can't expect an inherently corrupt system to reform itself. The people are sick of Parliament fiddling as Wellington burns. I agree.
Real. I couldn't have said it better myself.
I mean, what we could do is we just go, full fascism Trump and then burn everything to the ground and then cause a civil war and then we build again, right? That's the only way we move forward, right?
I don't think, see, the thing is, if we went full Trump, we wouldn't cause go on a full war. We'd be like a tiny little baby one.
Yeah, we'd just be like, I don't know.
Fighting with ourselves or Australia or something.
Yeah. It would be like a cat fight. It would just be like, compared to everyone else with their nukes, just, nuking everyone. And
yeah. It would be a meme.
I'm trying to bring into.
It would definitely be a meme.
A sad meme, that's for sure. It's in the bill of $2 says, stop voting like you're a billionaire. I agree.
Right.
Stop. You're not going to get there. And if you do, congrats. But also, can you give us $10,000?
Right.
Because that's what it'll be. Like,
too many people have been listening to that Temu theme song. And they're like, oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Kaimatata for $5. I wouldn't trust police with a deceased cat. Bob Semple, Labour's First Minister for Public Works, Timothy's comments were tame compared to old Labour's.
Right. Bring back the radical Labour.
Yeah, well, let's see.
Or hopefully they find their radical bone and.
Well, I mean, even if they find their. I'm kind of in the camp of if you want radical reform, you're going to vote Te Māori or Greens, right? They are your radicals. They're the ones that are going to push. And the more of them that get seats, the more that Labour need them to govern, right? The thing is, we've got to try and get those centrists, the flippy floppies, from the Nat vote, from National over to Labour. And it's a hard line, I agree, that they have to balance.
Alternate option. They rally well enough to actually get more New Zealanders to actually fucking vote. And then they'd easily be able to get people to actually the amount of people that don't vote versus the amount of doers, I'm pretty sure they're very similar numbers, if not way more who don't.
Pretty
so
big.
you could, that there's definitely things that they, could do. But hey, I'm not in the Labour Party. It's not my job.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I couldn't be.
I just make comments on the internet.
No, I don't have a thick skin. Sorry, I have a backbone. I don't have a thick skin. Yeah, no. I do not envy that job, but I'm quite happy to criticize it along with the rest of you.
Yeah, it's all right. I will be the more radical lefty for you. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. Keep pushing me. I'm happy to be a radical left.
I'll just pull you. Just come on, keep coming.
I can be a radical lefty. I have radical views. I just, I got to come back to my centrist roots sometimes.
Oh Jesus.
Anyways, do you want to meme us up?
Yeah, let's meme
the 10 o'clock meme time.
You guys have a group chat? That one I just loved. We've got a lot of penguin memes.
Oh my god!
So pay the tariffs. We'll be taking our business elsewhere. I love this one. Then we got another one. Unprecedented protests this morning on Heard and McDonald Islands as the population rises up against Trump's imposition of a 10% across the board tariffs.
That was the one I was trying to find yesterday. I said Norfolk Island. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Norfolk Island. It was McDonald Island. McDonald's Island? Yeah.
This one,
that's one that's full of birds.
Almost didn't make it in because it just got posted. But you guys get Trump, but Elon's mine. And the penguins of Madagascar, Beautiful.
Hell yeah.
Love.
Hell yeah.
What's got them so upset? Democrats versus Republicans. I mean, I'm not going to bother reading all of that one out because people can come look at the memes. But
That's the glory of the video cast.
right. CIA uncovers Chinese plot to just sit back and enjoy collapse of the United States. Next to another meme that says 2 + 2 = 5. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength.
That whole chart thing is hilarious, man.
Right. In 1672, a mob of angry Dutch killed and ate their prime minister. Options. Just saying.
Like Chewie says, if there's no choppy, there's no stoppy.
Exactly.
French Revolution and the guillotine.
This can be the last one before we go into our next thing, but this is definitely a reaction button needed on Facebook. I absolutely agree. I feel like we need all of the Golden Girls.
Golden Girls. Okay. No. I thought it was, but I was just like, pretty sure it's Golden Girls, but I don't want to say it's Golden Girls.
No. You made me panic for a second. I'm gonna be like, if you don't know who that is, I'm gonna die. But no, yes.
No, I know.
God, I wish we had one for each of them, to be honest. Especially Sophia. Oh, I love her.
Which one would be which?
Oh no, you just add them in. You need
You just add
more
them in?
emotions, you know?
Okay.
They are the emotions.
Gotcha. You just keep adding. Add to the emotions.
All right. Now, what emotions are we going into next?
I don't know if I want to. Well, we covered both. Thanks to Duncan, we covered the two ones, which was
nice. I love it.
The treaty was still under threat. So something to keep in mind. And unfortunately, that is happening. But I don't know. Just keep submitting. Keep an eye on what's happening. Keep an eye on where treaty is being pulled out of legislation and law and bills. And I think that's all we can do as the people. And let's just hope there's a new government next time around that can undo all this undoing.
Make sure. Not just hope. Let's make sure because we're going to be educating the people around us over the next year and a half, hey guys?
Yes.
Love that. We're going to make change.
But in sad news, Kāinga Ora staff crying in office over horrendous restructure process.
Yeah, I saw this.
So this kind of
just lost
follows.
Their CEO. Yeah, they came out just tonight. They went at 1:53. Yeah, double hitter.
Shit, I missed that one.
I'll send you the link.
Damn, Jesus, can't win, can we? So this kind of follows on from a lot of things around Kāinga Ora. Bishop saying that he's not going to build any more houses, or he's saying that he's going to build 3,000 houses, which technically 2,000 of those, or most of it, was funded under the previous government. So his government's not technically funding more housing, even though they said it would be like 1,000 per year. I don't know. It's all bullshit, really. And the rise in homelessness because of Kāinga Ora's much stricter rules around who can get housing. There is some just really, really shit things in here around the process for giving people homes, a roof over their head. Things like domestic violence victims who've had to up and leave their lives and their homes because who maybe are already in Kāinga Ora housing because of safety concerns. Kāinga Ora might go, well, you voluntarily left. They also then say, it's actually not the process. We don't do that, even though the evidence says that they do that. So there's just, it's a really shit thing. And to defund them even further by cutting these expenses, which means cutting a lot of their staff, they're just making the situation worse. And a lot of these people are frontline staff who are in contact with the tenants. They're people that actually help people get into housing. So with less of them around, you've got less people, at the front line funneling people into housing, puts more pressure on the organization, and ultimately, in the day, less people are getting housed and more people are going homeless. And it really pisses me off because it's a simple thing of just a house and a roof over someone's head. Why is that so hard to do? I don't care if it's like one of those total span, freaking sheds, right? If it gives someone a roof over their head, somewhere to lay at night that is not a tent or a car, that should be fundamentally what we're trying to achieve here, you know. Build more housing, but also fund the agency to build more housing. It's not about financial sustainability. It's about paying our taxes and getting what we're paying our taxes for, right? It's to house people. And like, if you want to look at it as a stupid skeptical productivity point of view, right? If you house people, they're more likely to be hygienic. They're more likely to be able to meet their basic needs. They're getting a good night's sleep. Therefore, they're being able to enter the job market. You know, they're going to interviews in a nice, clean set of clothes, having, hygiene sorted, as opposed to going in, smelling like they've been on the streets for a couple of months. Like,
unable to shower.
If you want to go from exactly, unable to shower, like basic human needs. And the Finland, I think it's Finland, who did a really great case study of they went for a housing first strategy, and instead of thinking about, oh, well, if you want a house, you've got to be able to pay the rent, so I guess you've got to get a job first, and that just doesn't work. So, and they've found quite a lot of success with the housing first strategy, but really, really shit stuff. And I imagine a lot of the people, the reason that the headline says staff crying is, I imagine a lot of people that work in Kāinga Ora are probably quite empathetic and actually care about the tenants, and they care about people and housing them. And I'm sure there's a lot of them that look through their little checklist and go, damn it, we can't actually put you on this. We can't put you on the list. We can't move you into housing because you don't meet this criteria. Or based on this criteria, you've actually voluntarily stepped out of housing that you previously had. I feel really bad for them. It's just, I reckon it's just a shit agency to be part of, as in, like, it must feel so shit, you know?
Yeah. It would take a toll on you.
Yeah, it would take a toll on you for sure.
Well, and because, like, I don't know if you saw this headline as well, but third of emergency housing applications being rejected by the MSD. There was also another one that I was reading from last week about how beneficiaries on money cards may not be able to actually pay their rents because most people on the benefit pay approximately 53% of their benefit on rent. But with the way that the money control cards are, if they were to do, put so much on that, they can't pay their rent with those payment cards.
Yeah, because they're not like credit cards or anything like that, right?
No,
they're only usually it's a bank transfer to pay your rent, right?
Yeah, well, they set up like their crediting system that basically just automatically sends it, and you don't really see it. But when it comes to the others, it's really frustrating because we're just seeing them do it in so many areas. And like, I also saw that there was a bunch of articles today about further issues with hospital shortages and stuff now too.
Yeah. So it's a triple, quadruple,
compiling
shitfest, really. And a lot of this could just be fixed by just funding them, right? And imagine what we could do if we had better hospitals and shorter wait times and better services and people that weren't like completely burnt out and homeless on the streets. I mean, that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. I might be in that bracket that new tax plan, let's just say it hits me. I might be one of those people that pay a little bit more in tax, but I'm happy to do that as long as the services I need are actually getting funded. The thing that pisses me off is that, if you're paying your taxes and you're not getting shit out of it, that kind of sucks. It just
it's
annoys
bullshit.
us, really.
Well, and because like it's also the fact is that like when it comes to what we were talking about earlier with like he said that they're even in the treaty principles bill process they contracted out, so that's public money going into private already, and they keep doing that. I just loaded in something that I was going to show you guys since we're on the topic of money and how it's spent.
Yes, this is yes. I think you said you were going to show this last week, but we didn't have time.
Yeah,
is this the same one?
This is I've actually expanded the graphs based off of more news that's been, because obviously I saw the thing about the beneficiary money issue, And I just thought, and obviously there was the news about obviously April 1st, all of the changes that happen on April 1st in terms of, pay
Yes.
rises. And I thought it's really interesting.
ACC levy's gone up
Yeah.
too. I think it was pretty minimal. It was tiny, but still.
Well, and that's the thing is, they always talked about it in percentages. So I've gone through, and
Oh,
I've
I do
made.
like $1.
I've even got the links to the sources in the
Oh.
bottom. So
She's salted.
So we've got here. You can see there's only a 2% increase, which sounds like, oh yeah, that's not too bad. But so if you're just on that job seeker at the top one, you see there, you're only getting an extra $409 over the whole year, which is a whole $7.80 per week, which when we take into account the different things that we're now paying for again, that's already gone. And you can look at it here. It's even worse for people who are couples, because you'll notice that if you're a couple, you get $2,000, basically nearly $3,000 less a year, just because there's two of you.
I hate the couple system. It's real archaic, and I know people are like, "Oh, but it seems fair. You're sharing so many resources," but it's just stupid. It basically hamstrings women. Essentially, it continues a very misogynist view of the world, where women typically end up doing a lot of the unseen or the invisible work that they do, and it also means that they're tied to their husbands a lot of time, or their partners. They may be in a domestic violence situation.
It's just weird to say, oh, well, because you guys are dating or together or whatever, you have to be in a certain way of like monetarily obligated to do these things. It's just bullshit.
Exactly.
You'll see, thankfully, with the pension, they've actually kept that rate at 3.6%. So they do have a higher percentage. But you know that hospital story that we heard about, obviously, only a few weeks ago? You'll notice the hospital rate down here went up by a whole $1.23 per week. Obviously,
What's
I've
the
done
hospital
these.
rate?
So you'll see it's 55. Yes, that was that girl that we saw that news about. Yes,
she ran out of her allotted time.
13 weeks.
So she gets paid out to help with living expenses and to live basically while she can't work and she's in hospital. I think it was, or.
Yes, yeah. So like if you're on supported living, it's only 4 weeks, but if you're on job seeker or other ones, it's 13 weeks, because they love to do 13 weeks. And the reason I put it into yearly is because I thought we could look at what the people in Parliament get paid.
Oh,
because we always hear about percentages, but we never know what those percentages mean. So like,
wait to be absolutely enraged.
So we got 2.9% increase for this the first year. That's $14,000, $14,100. So 2.9%. I mean, you couldn't even get close. Like, obviously they're not going to be exactly close, but it really puts into perspective how far away these numbers are. And I mean, I also read in an article that apparently Luxon stated that he didn't need the pay increases, so he was going to donate it to charity. So that's why I've added a column at the end that takes whatever they would donate out of their total earnings. So at the end of Luxon's prime ministership, he will have earned either $2 million before the thing, or only a measly 1.97 million. We are paying that motherfucker basically $2 million. Oh, and he's going to give a nice little 36K to charity.
He doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. He doesn't need the 36,000. He doesn't need it. So he'll just donate it. He doesn't need
it. As you can see, we've got Deputy PM. I've obviously done that in half because they're taking turns, which turns out Winnie got the worst half. Because based on Nintendo David Seymour is going to be really raking in a lot of extra money. So good thing that Atlas got him in. I also noticed that the speaker good old Jerry Brownlee, who's fucking
Jerry
useless.
Brownlee, my favorite
Yeah.
dessert.
Bro's gonna end.
Whoa. Oh no, Magenta. Oh no, they got to us. They got us, guys. They took us out. They found out what we were saying. They took us out. The Atlas Network. At least I'm the one who's... Oh, hang on. Maybe it's me that got kicked. No? Oh, yeah, no. Okay, it was definitely Magenta. Magenta! The Atlas Network. They got to us.
Sucked. It just totally crashed and unloaded my file. Atlas Network had me talk about them, guys.
Someone's in your computer going, no, no.
Right?
They can't know that we make $2 million.
Yeah, it's all right. It's still saved, so I can add it back in. We're good, guys. It didn't go anywhere.
It's funny how that always happens when we're talking about something controversial.
Yeah, it
That's
does
not even
make,
controversial. This is facts.
it does make the conspiratorial part of my brain fucking.
They're watching. They're
Right?
watching.
But yeah, so good old Jerry Brownlee. Oh no! Oh, don't do that. 1.2 million, and that's only if, because I only saw the article that Luxon stated he would donate his, his increases. But I did it for all of the roles, just in
I
case.
think it's important, just so we know if
Yeah.
who gets that $18,000 donation. Maybe it goes
Yeah.
back to 7,200. Wait, what? That doesn't make any sense.
Which one are you reading?
Your deputy
The
prime minister.
36,000? Oh.
Your deputy prime minister 3718, and then you got through.
Yeah,
is he
because
supposed to be?
if you look at that's because he only does one. That's only one increase. So there's 3 columns because there's 3 increases. But yeah, it's the 2.
Oh, right, because it's based on date. Okay, no, it's
Yeah.
all good.
It's
I
only
was just
'cause
going to
they're
say
sharing
that
the-
works.
It's because
I assume that 7,200 of that is going to go to taxpayers.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're going to donate it. So.
And so
Or
yeah,
the
and then you
Heritage
can see
Foundation.
that. God, I don't know if they'll put that name on it, but yeah, and as you can see, 2% for all of these roles is well in the thousands. I also went and thought, okay, well, we've also had increases to wages go up. A measly 1.5%, that equals 35 cents per hour. Or an extra 2,580 per year. And that's if you're working 40 hours for a 52. And this is gross. This doesn't include taxes. I also have a quote down here. Van Velden had proposed a 1% increase to $23.40 an hour, according to cabinet paper, while the Ministry of Innovation and Employment recommended a 2% increase to $23.60 an hour. So they compromised and went in the middle, apparently, because apparently an extra 10 cents was just too much when
business can't afford the extra 10 cents.
Right?
Come on.
And
they're working at the supermarket. Supermarkets are really critical to our everyday needs. And those
Right.
people, those supermarkets just can't afford the extra 10 cents. It's too much for people. It's too much.
Yeah. And I mean, not to mention the giant gap that we've got between the living wage, obviously, and minimum wage. I mean, and even then, like, they're getting one that was like 4.2%, which was in line with better metrics. I can't remember the exact word for it off the top of my head. But I also popped in here just a little bit of data at the bottom as well. So they had median yearly earnings, which obviously median is different to mean. So I've made sure to put both. But as you can see, basically the average yearly income of a New Zealander is 78,000, which if you're just on minimum wage, you're quite far away from like any of that. There's also an issue where we've got gender pay gap, because as you'll see down here, when it's done by median earnings, like the gender pay gap is intense. Like that is substantial loss of like money. And then you see those percentages and you're like, oh, okay, they only took 2%. That's not bad. We got 1.5, like, minimum wage got 1.5 and they got 2%. That sounds good. But then you look at the numbers and you're like, oh, yeah, because the percentage of this number is big. percentage of small number is small. You'll note here, I put that this data only shows yearly salaries and does not include entitlements. It also doesn't include how much money people will be making on the houses they're selling.
Oh yeah, so that 2 million for the that's before he sold 3 houses this year, was it?
Yeah.
One was how much were each of those? One was at least it was 500,000 in what was it, in gains on top of whatever it was that he sold it for.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember
after he changed the law so that the bright line test that would have been 10%. He 10 years, sorry. But then dropped down to 2 so that he could sell it without having to pay capital gains. Just come on. I mean, it would have put a couple of tens of thousands into the kitty. Absolute pennies for this guy. He's making $2 million a year. Magenta. They don't want us talking about this. Come on, come back. I'm gonna resuscitate you. Yeah, I the thing that really pisses me off about the how much that parliamentaries get paid. I understand that it's a high risk job and you can be cut at any point. I'm glad you're back, but I think
I didn't go anywhere.
Well, I get it that it's a high risk job. You could be cut at any point. You could lose your income, whatever. But if you're gonna do that job and you're gonna get paid that much, you better be giving people who are earning a fraction of what you're earning a bloody house. Take half your salary and build someone a house. Take a quarter of your salary and build someone a house. Or just a roof over their head. Take quarter of your salary and pay another doctor. Or just increase it by 5%, 10% for people that are on benefits. Like, we're talking absolute pennies. When people are paying $600 a week on their rents, which could be 60%, let's say, of their earnings, or more, a lot of times, this is money that actually makes a real difference. $100, $200, $500 to us. A week, whatever, a pay, that is money that we can save. That's money that we can save to buy a house. That's money that, even if that's not what we're going for and it's just our basic living expenses, that's stuff that it means we can buy better food for ourselves. We can go out and enjoy a luxury, which might be going to the movies, which is bloody expensive, or a treat. But it's not even that, just the basic needs.
Craig Rennie also points out that lower income earners actually stimulate the economy more because we don't get to hold on to our money very well. We kind of have to spend most of it. And you know what? You don't have to give us much more for it to still be getting spent quite a lot. Like, the point to which it, starts becoming more of a savings, this is quite a jump up. So, like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's far too much money. Yeah, I understand some of the points of views of like you get targeted, you deal with a lot of shit. Female politicians deal with so much more and much higher risk than male politicians when it comes to things like death threats. Jacinda Ardern, perfect example. Golra's perfect example. Like Tamitha, for example. Benjamin Doyle, for example. Like, all of these people, sure, they're getting paid a high enough salary to cover those sorts of things, but that still doesn't mean they should get slung shit every other day, and it is a scary job to be in. But at the same time, if you're in that job, give the rest of us some pennies. That's all we're asking for. It's just, we just want pennies.
I mean, I'd argue that the opposition is actually, they're giving us probably more than our money's worth. At least some of them. Some of them are definitely giving more than the money's worth. And I would say a lot of those are the Green Party, but I'm biased. It's fine. It's whatever. But, then we look at the ones who are actually sitting and making the decisions, and we're not even getting anywhere near our money's worth, whether it's food for kids, whether it's whatever. And it's frustrating me that, like, this guy is literally going to make $2 million off of us, because remember, we're customers to him. We aren't people. Because we're making him bank. And that's why I did those numbers, because I'm like, we need to put it in perspective, because it sounds not too bad when it's like, oh, they're only getting a small percentage increase. But, the bigger the number, the bigger that percent is. And I mean, as you guys saw, there was I'll I'll put it up one more time. I think I know what's doing it. It's when I try to zoom in and make it big on my screen. But
that's what
when
they don't want to be able to see the numbers.
When you look at all of the pluses, like in terms of how much they get per year or, per week in either of these documents, first of all, I could point out the fact that like job seeker, $18,000 a year. That is how much a beneficiary gets, which you can see is less than half of minimum wage. So when people bash on beneficiaries, like me, we are making do with literally less than half of what other people have to, have. And I'm sure a lot of us would like to have work and have more money. I applied for jobs. They couldn't take me. But you'll notice, even despite that fact, none of the pluses that either of us get, whether it's beneficiaries, pensioners, students, or the working class, none of them even come close to one of the increases that you could probably add together over the 3 years, all of the 3 increases we'll end up getting, and it still will pale into comparison, like, to these numbers. So that's really, really what I wanted to kind of hammer home, and I'll pop that up somewhere online so people can have a look at it and check the numbers if they want.
If anyone is skeptical and you're like, no, whatever, just think about those numbers every time that Luxon says anything like bottom feeders. When he says anything along the lines of they're greedy, beneficiaries are greedy, they already have too much, they want too much. Like, anytime you hear that sort of shit, just remember $2 million a year?
Well, no, in total, over his entire thing.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was thinking $2 million a year.
Thank God, no. We pay him $500,000 a year near the end. Like, it's only like $500,000.
Oh, okay. So it's only $500,000. Okay. Well, he's only earning $500,000, so it's fine.
Yeah.
It's not nearly as bad.
It's not like maybe they're the bottom feeders, but yeah.
Not to mention the fucking sales of his houses.
Oh yeah, like let's not. Maybe there's some more numbers we'll have to look at. I see Rogers. Put it in the notes, Rogers. We'll look into that later. But yeah, that was all I wanted to present in terms of my numbers this week, because I've been seething about them on my own, and I needed to seethe with everybody else.
Anytime someone says something, just bring up those numbers. Bring up those numbers. Just keep those on mind. Yeah, sometimes. Anyway, tech was it? Tech's work less. Tech's worth more. Absolutely. Except that doesn't really work in this case because they're technically working wages, but same principle applies. We know what it means. Yeah, just tax more.
Do we want some memes after all of those yucky numbers?
Actually, yes. Before you run away with your numbers.
Oh yeah, no. Leave. They can stay there as long as you want.
Was this before or after tax?
This is all gross. So this is all before tax.
Oh, okay. So at least it's a little bit less, but still, it's
not really though, because like tax brackets. I mean, once you get up that high, like I guess it's still. Let's not worry about whether it's gross or net. I mean, it's a big number.
It is a big number.
And bro ain't
It's more than probably we make in our lifetime. I think how long does it take the average person to earn that much?
Yeah, I mean, we're literally paying Winston Peters to be a piece of shit right now. Just putting that into perspective for you guys.
Anyways, let's meme it up. Keep the memes rolling.
Yes, I'm gonna go for a video meme first because
a video
why
meme?
Not? I love a good video meme. Yes.
Hey, it's my friend.
Yeah. Oh, is this your friend? I found them on Instagram, and I noticed that they followed you, and I was like, oh, Cracker.
He's a great bloke. Christchurch-based guy. He's a comedian.
Look, you're not listening to me.
Really
what I would say to you is by taxing dragons less on their gold coins, what that'll actually create is a trickle-down economy effect where they'll put that money back into the local economy, and it's about more money in adventurers' back pockets. Your final quest for the day is we're going to go into the magical forest and you're going to eliminate some elves that have been squatting there illegally. They haven't paid any rent in years, and it's time to put a stop to that. I think you guys actually spoke really rude with that king, and I think you should be a little more polite next time. The man at the entrance of the tavern says you lot are going to have to take your gold colours off as they're considered gang patches. Ooh, sorry guys, I forgot to tell you, the price to stay a night at the inn has actually doubled since the last time you were here. From now on, your second level spells don't refresh when you go back to sleep. You can, however, pay 20 gold coins to refresh your spell slots every day. This new system is going to create a lot of jobs in the sector, and I think it's going to attract a lot of investment and opportunity to the small town. Oh, you rolled an 18? I'm afraid that means your healing spell has failed. You'll have to go to the nearest privately owned hospital for the best quality medical attention that money can buy. Oh, I'm sorry, that's a critical fail. You can pay me some gold coins to roll again. Well, hey, look, that might be your opinion, but personally, I think the landed gentry class all deserve to have their dignity restored to them. No, look.
I mean, the whole thing, I was pissing my pants, just laughing. And I mean, to be fair, I feel like if I got stuck in this D&D campaign, it would be my fucking nightmare. I would take so much psychic damage. But...
I think the whole point of role playing is you move into a fantasy world, not into an alternative. Well, it's not an it's the same reality, but there's dragons.
Yeah, but I've also played a lot of D&D, and you end up with a lot of fantasy capitalism, fantasy racism.
True.
Like, it doesn't matter if it's fantasy; it's still humans thinking.
It's true.
It's the problem. But that one just had me wetting my pants. And
he's an awesome guy. I'll see if I can get him on one time. He's,
absolutely. Nah, I love his shit. It's so good. Also, I'm achievement unlocked. Hold the Senate floor longer than Strom Thurmond. And the fact that he didn't use the bathroom or sit down
and had no catheter and no diapers and never sat for 25 hours, I would be. I don't know. I think I would lose my mind doing that. So good on him. I haven't watched pretty much any of it, but I've seen like tiny little snippets here and there.
Yeah,
but I need to go back and watch the last hour and see if he's still coherent. I imagine he was.
Well, yeah, because I remember hearing that basically he got to his time, and then he's like, "It's fine. Going. I'm going to keep going. Like, I'm good. Let's go." And I'm like, "That's just mad lad." This one gave me a giggle. I'm an alpha male. I do what I want, and I don't care what anyone says. I'm not one of those sheeple. You hate Canada now. Okay, daddy. Because that's really how they be. Also, pronouns are confusing. Bro, literally, what is this? And if you don't know what this is, this meme's not for you, but it's World of Warcraft, if you don't know. And it just tickled me.
Yeah. That looks not as bad, but my partner plays PoE, and I feel like that's what I see every time I walk past his screen.
Yeah, no, actually, depending on what build he plays,
Well, actually, no, LOL's the other one, where I'm just like, what am I looking at?
Oh,
it's definitely not this bad, though.
Nah, yeah, LOL's easy. Does anyone else remember when Elon was like, if anyone knows how to end world hunger for $6 billion USD, I'll fund it. And UNICEF was like, we're going to spend a month to make the plan. And then basically Elon was like, nah, and bought Twitter instead. We need to actually, I feel like this post has a point. We need to remind people that this is who this man is. He's full of shit and he's bad at video games. And then I liked this. I don't know where this is, but some very good street art.
A reminder, $2 million.
Right? Yeah.
Can't fund school kids' lunches.
Also, I was just imagining, like, what is it? Neighbors at War? That TV show? Was it Neighbors at War? Just imagine this house, but Neighbors at War. I don't know if you can see, there's a fuck Biden and then there's fuck Trump and a rainbow flag. Definitely be an interesting house to live across from. Do we want to do these ones, or did you want to pop something else up first?
I'll run through the super chats. Yes. And then we'll
keep those
the final memes because we're pretty much done for the night. So nice. we'll run through the super chats. Unless there was anything else you wanted to chat about, but
Nah,
get through
I mean, there's a
these.
couple of notices, but nothing too big.
Sweet. XLDF for $5 says we're all going in the same direction, just some need multiple buses while some are on the Shinkansen. Love it. Mr. Arvids, $5 says Kapai challenging Duncan Mage. Agreed. Great work. I'm a simp for Duncan, so I probably wouldn't have said anything. Well, I might have, but I wouldn't have been able to do it as articulate or as knowledgeable as you would have done it. So
It's all
there you go.
good. I'll be your attack dog. It's fun.
Yeah, thank you. Kiri Bird for $2 says Jerry hijacked Magenta's connection. He's like, no, I don't want you to say 6.
Oh
1.6.
no!
No.
Oh
Don't look.
no!
No. Still my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Guy Matata, $2. Them. Let them eat cake. Us. Let them eat blades. Oh, jeez.
/J. You got it.
Just joking.
That's important. Yes.
Just kidding. It's not. Get it. XOD for $2 is PS charity from Luxon is to reduce his tax payment. Yeah, you also pay, you get your tax back on donations. If you do that. So it
Forgot
kinda just comes
about
back
that.
anyway. Yeah. Citizen Gold for $5 says I'd rather roleplay the real world than live through the dark comedy political nightmare hellscape we're living through.
Yep, same. That's what oh wait, no, our D&D got cancelled tomorrow.
Oh.
Next week.
I accidentally, well, not accidentally, I didn't do it. Pat cancelled Jonathan's D&D yesterday because I had to be on BHN. So.
Oh, Ratchet.
Yeah.
We're in the same
So
boat.
blame Pat. It's Pat's
I
fault.
can't blame Pat for mine.
Kai Matata, $2. We are in Middle Earth with Christopher Smorgson.
That's good.
Oh dear. What a fun time we live in.
We said completely ironically. It has been a time. All right, so do we want a little bit of good news to finish off? Actually, I realized I've got one good news thing. It's literally, we can talk about it. It's just one quick thing to look at because there wasn't a lot of good news going around, if I'm honest.
No,
but
there really wasn't.
But when this was actually posted, reported on yesterday. But apparently a Wellington man has created an app to help find the best pies. And it's already out. You can go and download the app and you can take photos. And like as you can see here, you can literally kind of like the Gatsby app or whatever. You can rate pies across the Motu. So yeah, he just started developing it in his spare time. And people have been getting amongst it, and I just thought that was a little fun, wholesome Kiwi-as story for the end of the night. We don't need to talk on it. It's just cool.
Does it come down south as well, or is it just currently the North Island? Is it just because it's been spread around the region?
I'm assuming it's just because that's zoomed in, but I mean, I'm sure it's like most apps. If people download it and start using it. I'm assuming it would. I didn't check the app.
You might have to send that to Chewie because he was saying that Oamaru have one of the best pies.
So... Actually, you're right. I will send this to him right after the show.
And Vakago also has a really famous pie shop. Just saying.
Well, see, I'm glad that we've got this app now, so people can share their pies.
Place in like is it not Tuatapere? I can't remember. It's a place literally on the coast on the bottom of the South Island. Can't remember what it is.
Yeah.
They also, I think, have a really famous pie or something.
Oh.
Like
I mean, to be fair, I feel like there's a lot of places that have really good pies.
Oh, Jimmy's Pies in Roxborough. I didn't realize Jimmy's Pies was a Southland Otago, Southland type thing. And it was like my go-to bacon and egg pie because they actually they didn't just crack an egg in it, which the yolk goes really gross. Yeah. They actually properly mix it in like a quiche, and they were the absolute best pies you could buy. Didn't realize they weren't in the rest of the country, and I got very sad.
Nah, that's fair. I know that's how people up here feel about makitu pies when you go places and they don't have them. But yeah, that was just our fun little thing. And then we'll finish off with we actually had a lot of community memes. You guys have been going hard. Like I had to
you gotta balance.
So many.
If there's no good news, it's just bad news. You gotta balance the memes.
People have been having a fun time in the Discord though. We've
Good.
got Winston complaining about bushy, and eggplant emojis. Okay. Okay. This is beautiful. Kāinga always never ceases to do amazing work. We've literally, even the logo, who wants to not be a prime minister? An 11-year-old autistic girl was treated horribly by police. Greens say that some people don't trust police. How do you respond? I will look and see. Yeah. Not the one,
Call
bro.
the statement stupid and listen to, what was it?
Oh, sorry, yes.
Call the statement stupid and not listen to those affected. Yeah, that was a terrible move, Chris.
Yeah, well, he could have done say
terrible move.
nothing. Could have tried to find out why some people don't, but no.
Cite the evidence.
Yeah. So we've also got this one. National act and them going around marginalized population, Labour. I need to win votes. But also do like this one. Kieran to N6. Knight takes bishop. Because Kieran is the one thing that's keeping my. Well, actually, no, he's not the one thing. Aisha Baral is also one of them. But they're keeping me.
They're not all bad.
I know they're not.
There's some great people in there. There's some great people.
Yeah, the problem is it's not
Great
all
people.
of them.
Some good people.
And as you can see, people had some feelings. So we've got Labour fans are just like Swifties, Labour fans, and then alternatives to police, and then all four other parties. Just poor Tam.
Yeah.
Don Brash. Māori were uncivilized and needed the English to colonize them to stop them being violent. The missionaries literally asked Māori chiefs to protect missionaries from English settlers because they were so violent. Gentle reminder that we were looking after them. I think the Green MP's Instagram posts are dodgy and police need to intervene. What? Well, how did was that how you felt when Tim Jago was convicted of abusing teen boys? Angry face. This is a regular reminder that Tim Jago was sexually assaulted teenage boys and David Seymour knew about it. Then we got WAP, Winston Asshat Petusi, because obviously the Ussy jokes have been going quite strong in the Discord.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right.
It's good. Got act I fear no man, but that thing, it scares me. The road guy. And then so Kāinga gave us this beautiful picture, and then we got some memes made out of it. It's Jack Sparrow, but Winston Peters. So you got Wussy Peters Bussy Boat. The SS Peters, powered by rum, homophobia, and rapidly sinking relevance. Oh, let's see if it'll let me make it bigger. And then we go, near, far, wherever you are, Winston rages while the world moves on. I'm not doing the other one, though. I did practice it, though, for you, Kāinga. I see you. I loved this one. This was someone who's actually, I think, recently joined the Discord and been a bit more active. Just taking him away.
Oh my god,
Also,
that's a classic. That's a classic.
throwback meme to the
Throwback
original
meme.
format. What is
Oh my
Bussy
goodness.
galore? I know. When I saw the Velociraptor in there, I was just like, oh my god, what is this? Like,
Gone back to the good
2010?
old days.
right?
Bring back
Oh, wait till
traditional
everyone gets
memes.
mad that we said 2010s was old days. Good one. But also, there was some collaboration that happened, and some ideas were had between, I believe, I can't remember all of it. It was like Aiden, Kāinga, and one other. Sorry, I've forgotten who. But they made this beautiful image of Nuzusi Furusi, which I love. I mean, seeing Winston
Took me a
Peters as a
second. I
furry is
got it.
great.
I
Yeah.
got it.
But the creation of the week goes to Kiwi Burb because Kiwi Burb went and made a whole bloody comic strip. I believe the text was in collaboration with people in the Discord, but just Look at this amazing offerings we keep continuing to get. Just let's get your hair back on track. Yep, my hair's been out of control since the last hairdresser resigned. Time for a change. Trim a bit off the sides to promote even growth. This isn't what I asked for. What I would say to you is, I only wanted to trim. Again, what I would say to you is that I had to make some additional cuts. Fuck, I'm bald.
So good.
I also realized I didn't change the date on it. Whoops,
Hi.
but yeah, that is our memes for the week.
Wonderful.
The cat's telling us it's time to go to bed.
Yeah, she is. She's meowing profusely. I know, I hear you. It's
Mother,
okay.
please return to me.
My favorite thing is when she pushes through the door, she kind of just doesn't, like, other cats will kind of like put their paw through and they'll kind of like weirdly try and open it. She'll be like, oh, it's kind of open. Okay, I'm ready to go, and just like bam, right through. And then she comes in and she kind of waddles and she's like, too cute.
Oh,
She's very cute.
oh, that's adorable. Also, I did realize there was one other thing I forgot to mention. If you're in Wellington, the council is taking submissions on water reform, long-term plan amendments, and annual plans. All very important stuff. This should have been in a mailbox. If it's not, go on to the Wellington Council website, which is wcc.nz/have your say. 21st of April. Get on it.
Nice. Something I do want to do later in the year when it's slightly probably more relevant is local elections. I'd love to get on some local election candidates.
Oh, yeah.
I like to do some research and figure out who's... Well, actually, no, I can probably just put them all and say, hey, do you want to come on? But I mean, I might have to vet some of them. You know, there's the odd quacker running for local elections, so I might go,
The odd one?
maybe not someone we want to spend our time on. But I'm sure there's some great people around the country that we, and if anyone, actually, it'd be a good place to put on the Discord to reach out and let us know if there's anyone that you want us to talk to.
Yeah, go to the Bright Hairy News Discord, like our actual Bright Hairy News one, and just tag me if you've got anyone, and we can kind of get that on the radar.
All rolling. Yeah, because do you know when local elections are? Usually around
I should,
October,
but
right?
honestly, I'm too worried thinking about what's currently going on to fucking think about October right now. I mean, I probably should be worrying about October, but it's every week is definitely
just a day, just a day at a time, Yeah. One of my favorite things, before I leave, my favorite thing from the Di Henwood, I don't know if I said this, I think I was talking to my partner about it. My favorite thing from the Di Henwood most recent interview that he did with Samantha Hayes is that she was asking about his cancer, because he's got terminal cancer.
Yeah.
And she was saying, do you fear the day in which what will you do, or how will you think, or are you worried about the day that they tell you that there's like, there's no, like, you've got so many, you know, you're on the decline and there's nothing. Yeah. The end is nigh. And he's like, oh, I don't think about it. Like, the future doesn't exist. I just think about today and like tomorrow, and that's all I can think about. And I just live my life, because there's no point worrying about it now, because otherwise you worry twice when it happens. Exactly. And I was like, it's beautiful. There's no point worrying about it now, because you'll just worry twice. And that's my little pep talk for the day. No point worrying about it right now. You just worry twice. Yeah. Great show, guys. Thanks for joining us on this wonderful roller coaster of an evening.
been a big show. I feel like I'm starting to feel like tired, because I'm like, oh my god, this has been so long and so much, but so good. That's what she said. Haha.
Have I got the music going? Yes, I do. Let's play it.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need
Thanks everyone for joining us for this wonderful edition of Bright Hearing News for the Friday night BHN show. Big thank you to Duncan Webb for joining us to talk about Treaty Principles Bill. And thanks for being great in the chat. We appreciate it. And thanks for being well behaved. Magenta, anything to say before we go?
Cheers, Peter Syme, for the $2 super chat to remind us that it's daylight savings this weekend. And if you actually have a clock that requires changing, you should change it. But I know, right? But yeah, obviously, have a good weekend, everyone. Do something for yourself. Do something with your community. Touch grass if you can.
Yeah,
People
we will be back. Pat and Chewie will be back on Monday with you at 9 p.m. and myself and Magenta will be back with you next Friday. Have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week.
Ka kite.
Johnny.